Our pledge and prayer, and then we'll call the meeting to order here. So if you would rise with me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning with humble hearts as we look to do the county business. May you grant us wisdom and discernment as we look to do the business in a way we just glorify and honor you. We thank you for everybody here today, just showing the passion that we have for our community. Just continue to guide and direct us. May our words and deeds be pleasing to you this day. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Look to call the meeting to order. Look for approval of the claims and minutes.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda this morning is County Administrator Marcia. You've got several items for us.
Yes, I do. First item, maintenance agreement for APG is Advanced Products Group. This is the annual maintenance contract for our phone system. It's in the amount of $16,991.86. And it's a renewable contract, and I ask that you renew this for maintenance.
Okay. Any questions? Not, I look for a motion.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Next is the bid opening. Ed has the bids down there. He'll open them and read them. And these bids will be reviewed and then awarded on May 6th.
Okay. Got a total of three bids, it looks like.
And this is for the Public Defender's Office construction over in the Justice Building, as well as some construction in the Clerk's Office for voter registration.
First bid is Schinkel Construction in the amount of $100,139.
Is that for both the public defenders and the clerks, or are they specifying?
Public Defender's Office.
Okay, they didn't submit for the clerk's office then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 3 copies of the same document.
Okay.
Public Defenders.
Thank you.
Second bid is Clint Davis Construction. This is the construction of office separation walls for $48,208. And then Public Defender's Office, the construction of new office space for $72,370.99. And the third and last bid is Robinson Construction. This is a proposal for renovating 3 different areas of the existing Justice Building. First project is for $14,394. Project 1B is for $37,524. And base price for project 2 is $87,774. And that's all of the bids that we have. You want to take these under consideration, Marcia?
Yes, please. And they're available for review in my office.
So we'll take action on that at our next meeting, correct?
Yes,
May 6th.
Anything else this
that's
morning?
all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Next on our agenda is County Sheriff. Anything this morning?
No.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
County Highway?
Thanks, Steve.
Ed?
No public report.
Okay.
Thanks, Ed.
Any other office or department head this morning come before the commissioners? Okay. Next we have is our area plan, but we have a scheduled start time of 9:15, so we'll have a 10-minute wait before we start that hearing. Ed, we could probably start a few minutes ahead of that. Could I read any of the decorum stuff maybe ahead of that, or?
Yeah, you can read the quorum and the order of proceedings before you open the hearing.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll start back up here at about 9:15.
Sure.
This one did not make it in time. However, in talking with Steve and looking at it, this one is a pretty, I can't speak for my board, but I feel that they would look at this and say, yeah, this makes sense. We're looking at the last 50 foot of a platted road right away within Worcester. And if you look at the aerial that Steve just gave you there, half of it has a garage in it. So this is an older area, Worcester obviously being one of our older platted areas in the county. When they are building, obviously, a lot of times did not take into consideration where those lines were. This is the last step, I believe, and probably Steve will look at this, that they're looking at trying to get this cleaned up, get that last stretch vacated in this block of Worcester. So don't have an official recommendation for you. Looking at it, I feel that probably the Planning Commission would feel that it makes sense. From staff standpoint, it makes sense and cleans up actually a violation that we can get off the books as well. So.
Steve Snyder on behalf of the petitioner. The aerial I handed you has outlined in red the area of the alley that we're asking to be vacated. You can see where the alley had been off to the east. The remainder, every other part of that alley has been vacated. So this is the last spot. Doesn't serve any purpose. We can solve a zoning violation by vacation and clean up the area. So we're asking you to approve it with Matt's comments that he doesn't see any issues with it.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Anybody here to speak in favor of this vacation? How about those opposed? Hearing none, we'll close it to the public. Discussion?
No discussion. I'd make the motion to accept the recommendation. I mean, the guy's garage is sitting on it. What are you going to do? Make him move a 2-car garage? And it's the very last one in that plat. So we'll finish up the town of Worcester by doing this.
And I would second that.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, next one we have is a recommendation on a rezoning, and this is a rezoning for Lyle Yodar. And it is a rezoning request to rezone 1.45 acres from Ag to Ag 2. Give me a map here. We are up on 1150 North, and you'll see the area in question is outlined in blue. Looking at the zoning map there, everything unshaded is agricultural, anything in orange is Ag 2. You may remember the acreage to the south was before you with a rezoning request not too long ago to go from Ag to Ag 2. This is a last step, and even at our Planning Commission meeting, this parcel in question came up with the idea that they were going to access the north right away as a driveway. They were going to go a different route at that point. However, at this point, bringing it back to get it all Ag 2 prior to any platting. This is coming to you with a unanimous recommendation to rezone with the idea that it is adjacent to the adjoining property, and this was with a prior condition that this was only going to be a 2-lot Ag 2 subdivision. So.
Steve Snyder for the petitioner. Originally, this began as the desire of the owner of the large tract to sell off his house to his son, build a new house. We rezoned that to Ag 2, no problem. When we went to get the preliminary plat prepared, the surveyor actually included this Yodar parcel in it. So rather than modify the preliminary plat and delay it for another 30 days, we said, let's just rezone this parcel to Ag 2 as well. We've already filed the preliminary plat, including this parcel, which will be coming up for hearing before the Planning Commission in May. So we're just kind of cleaning things up and avoiding modifying the original preliminary plat.
Okay. Steve, so just so I understand correctly, that this blue area is then how they're going to access this lot that's behind this existing home?
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Anybody here to speak in favor of this zoning request? About those against? Close the meeting to the public. Thoughts? Motion?
It looks like it addresses what needs to be done to make that happen. I would move that we approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Next one we do have for you is the rezoning recommendation request for,
Don't do that.
for Timothy Polk and Polk Farms and Murphy Place. This is a rezoning, and I'll give you the map. I know you folks know where this is, but just for your references while you're talking through it, this is rezoning request to rezone 554 acres from agricultural to industrial 3. We are up near Clunet, right there on 700. 200, there's your map.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. As with last hearing, you can see the different zoning on there. Anything unshaded would be agricultural. You've got some other zoning classifications down to the southeast. That would be the town of Leesburg. What this request is to rezone the 554 acres, as I said, from ag to ag 3. This one did, and as you said, most of you did see or hear the hearing, were present, had a pretty lengthy hearing on this, had good discussion. Ultimately, at the end of the hearing, the Plan Commission did unanimously recommend 8-0 not to rezone. That recommendation was based on a number of different items, including the comprehensive plan, surrounding zoning classifications, highest and best use. I have all the exhibits from that hearing. I know we've passed those along to you through the time that the Plan Commission was hearing that, the letters of remonstrance, letters of support, as well as any other findings that we do have. Welcome to share that with you. If there's any questions before it gets going, I'm happy to answer those from the Plan Commission standpoint.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Steve?
Thank you. The podium seems to be heavily occupied by the media. I've got some things to hand out, I think most of which you have examined before. I'm here on behalf of the petitioners. And as Matt indicated, we're requesting a rezoning from ag to I3. There has been an immense amount of discussion about this project since the Plan Commission hearing and actually before the Plan Commission hearing. And what you want to hear is anything that might be new or different. There are some additional things that have come up in various conversations, but one of the things that was presented to the Plan Commission was, of course, the voluntary conditions that were offered by the petitioners in order to limit the use of the area that's in question.
Thank you, Steve.
If it's rezoned to I3, to limit its use to a data center only. That eliminates a significant number of uses that might be available under the zoning ordinance, because we're not requesting any of those uses, or we're not requesting just a general rezoning. We want the rezoning to be limited to the potential data center. Again, 500 plus acres. The key is, as most realtors would tell you, location, location, location. We have the convergence of 345,000 watt transmission lines on these parcels, and that is what is essential for what is being proposed. The area in question has some unique features besides just being what we need. And that is, to a great extent, there is an industrial use immediately adjacent to the parcels in question. It's just that that particular use does not require any zoning approval because it's a use by NIPSCO for a substation that occupies a 20-acre tract and has an additional 15-acre tract immediately adjacent to it that is owned by NIPSCO. Utilities aren't subject to our zoning ordinance. They can put a substation in any zoning category they want, as explained by the ordinance. But in this case, this is a massive substation occupying almost all of the 20-acre tract that it's located on. And I can only assume that there's some potential for expansion in the future because of the additional 15 acres that's owned by NIPSCO to the west. I also tried to outline on the aerial map the location of the transmission lines that are crucial to this parcel. The red lines coming into the NIPSCO parcel indicate those 345,000 volt lines and how they converge at that location and at the location that we're seeking to rezone. Those are crucial. There's also been a fair amount of discussion since the Plan Commission hearing over what is the real need for a data center at this location. And again, location, location, location. We have to have the power. And I thought it was coincidental that in yesterday's Inquiry News, there was an article that talks about the demand for data centers and the power requirements and the fact that they have to locate where that power is available. And
Thank you.
in case you didn't read that article, it refers to various studies that have been conducted by independent groups looking at the power needs, the increase in that need between now and 10 years from now, and the fact that the demand for the centers has not slowed down. Historically, the state of Virginia has been the center of data center construction with over 600 data centers in that state, followed closely by Texas. But the article makes it pretty clear that this isn't something that's going away, that with AI coming to the fore, those computers require even more power than prior versions of the computers. So artificial intelligence is now the name of the game. Whether we know it or not, the phone I've got, the phone you use, all of them use those data centers, and that's what we're looking for. From Prologis, who is the proposed developer, JC Witt is here. JC. And I just want him to give you an overview of what this project is, and we're still at the very preliminary stage, because you have to remember that if we can't get the appropriate I3 zoning, we can't go to the next step, which is where the real detail comes in, which is the Board of Zoning Appeals approval of a special exception for a data center in an I3 district. JC?
Thanks, Steve. Thank you all for the time. I'm joined on behalf of my peers at Prologis, Claire and Larry, who are both fellow Hoosiers. I hail actually from, I would call an ally state of Texas to the south. And on behalf of all of us, I collectively say that we have deep respect for this community and have been thoroughly impressed with all of your commissioners, and candidly, the reception from the crowd, even though in the planning meeting, I'm sure you all didn't love us being there. So I wanted to start off by saying that. I'd also like to say that we've read all of your letters that you've written to the Times Union. We've read, or we noted all of your comments that were provided in the planning meeting, and we've read most of the posts that you guys have provided on the internet. We've taken all those into consideration in thinking through this site. But as Steve said, a lot of those issues that were being brought up or concerns that were being raised are not at the center of the ask today. That ask today is merely to start the discussion about us potentially redeveloping this site and asking for the rezoning. A lot of those issues around water use, around the construction routing, around the planned improvements outside of the site are things that we would address in the future as we work through it in a partnership with the county to get those things done. This is again merely just the request to rezone. We know that this is even more intimate discussion because of the location that this exists in. We know that the identity of this county is in agriculture, and we have no intention of removing that or changing that in any fashion. As Steve mentioned, this location is being chosen specifically because it's the least disruptive location for the county. And that might seem a little bit odd based on the location of where it's at on a map. But if you look at it from the perspective of the power lines, this is a location that does not require additional high voltage lines to be routed to our site. It merely requires connection to the existing substation and the 345 lines that exist there. The tax revenue from this project is substantial. We provided some preliminary numbers at the planning meeting. The commissioners have those numbers. This rezoning use from agriculture to data center would be a massive strategic exchange for the county, providing lots of tax revenue in excess of millions of dollars a year in exchange for what would be only 0.15% of the agriculture land in the county, adjacent, as Steve mentioned, to what's already existing substation. If we were to move this to another location, and we got that request multiple times and had that in discussions with a couple of the members that were here after the planning meeting, you would be looking at likely needing an additional 100 to 200 acres of high voltage right away to bring lines from this existing substation to wherever it would go. And I think that in itself would be more disruptive than what we're asking for, which is just to provide an existing 500 acres adjacent to the substation. So in closing, I just say that, again, we're not asking to change the identity that exists today of the agriculture community here. We're just purely asking for a vote to start the process to strengthen this community for the future.
Thank you, JC. A couple other things to discuss, some of which were heard by the Plan Commission, some of which were not. I think one of the crucial things is, what is it that makes this site so satisfactory from the standpoint of diversifying industry in the county? We know that we are very dependent upon three things. One, agriculture. Two, the orthopedic industry. Three, tourism. All of those contribute significantly. From an industrial standpoint, we're very concentrated in the orthopedic industry, and there have been calls for as long as I've been around to begin diversifying what we can do. In this particular case, not only do you have an investment in excess of $10 billion to create these facilities, you have the creation of 30 jobs per building for a total of 300 jobs, each of which would generate a salary in excess of $100,000. The salary numbers, and they're on the sheets that I handed out. The salary numbers are extremely significant. The tax revenue to benefit the county, the schools, the libraries, every taxing district in the county would benefit by the ultimate payout of tax that would be generated by this facility, somewhere north of $30 million a year. That is an opportunity that this county, in my opinion, won't see again, but is available if we can start the process today. And a key factor is we can't take the first step of providing the minutia, the real detail of the construction, drainage issues, water issues, noise issues. All of those are considerations for the Board of Zoning Appeals at the time a request is filed for an exception use for a data center in an I3 district. We know that if you were to rezone it today, we're limited to that. But then we have to get down to the real nitty gritty, which is the plan itself and all of the details that are required in that plan. We're looking at some provisions of the county ordinance that may not come into play every day. They're called performance standards in section 3.26 of the ordinance. The Board of Zoning Appeals is required to review the project in light of all of those performance standards and make sure they will meet the requirements of the ordinance. There isn't a use in the county that isn't subject to the performance standards of section 3.26. They have to be met. That means the developer has to come into the Board of Zoning Appeals with enough detail to provide the information needed by the Board of Zoning Appeals to determine that each of those criterias in the performance standard regulations are met. That's very detailed, much more detailed than what you have seen so far, but essential if we're going to obtain ultimate approval for the project. We can't get to that, and we can't have a public discussion of those details unless there is a rezoning of the parcel to I3. Months ago, the Plan Commission considered an amendment to the ordinance because it anticipated a data center approval being requested not too far down the road, and here we are. The Plan Commission decided that I3 was the appropriate classification for a data center, but that it should also be an exception use, not a permitted use. That means we have to go through that Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing where all the comments can be made based on the detail of the project rather than on the overall project, which may not have those details. And again, it would be drainage, water usage, power supply, noise, light, traffic, parking, etc. We have done the preliminary studies to know that that can all be accomplished on this parcel, including a connection to a sanitary sewer, which is certainly the most beneficial for the project. And we've talked to the highway department. We know where they want us to go during construction. We know that we have to maintain the roads and bring them up to standards so they can be used during the course of construction and leave them that way when we're done. But the real details of it, the width of the pavement, that would come in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals, as would the exact location of any sanitary sewer collection and treatment, which ultimately it appears would end up by the city of Warsaw. We know they're going to require pre-treatment. That's all going to be part of that Board of Zoning Appeals hearing. But we can't get there we can't provide the public with the detail that the public craves, and I know they do, until we get past today's step, so that we know that we can make the investment in providing those details for analysis by the Board of Zoning Appeals, review by the critics in the area. If there are critics who want to point out deficiencies in that plan, we can't even get there without at least having the first step opened up to us by rezoning the parcel to I3. You know that we can't do anything out there other than a data center if you rezone it. And you also know that the details of that plan have to be reviewed by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Board of Zoning Appeals is in a different position than you are for a rezoning, and that is its actions are subject to review by a court. So if we were to obtain the exception approval and there were significant objections from residents of the county, those people have the ability to ask a court to look at what was presented to the Board of Zoning Appeals and review that to make sure it was sufficient to meet the standards required, not only under the exception rules, which have 5 elements, but under the performance standards, which detail the standards which have to be met by any project in the county. I'm not going to try and review again the water consumption or the street use or the routes or et cetera. You've all seen that as presented to the Plan Commission, and we've had discussions about it off and on since the Plan Commission. But what I am suggesting is that you're not throwing the world under the bus by this rezoning. You're merely opening up an opportunity for the developer to come in, meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance that would have to be met before the BZA could approve the special exception. And it's an opportunity that, in my opinion, having been around here for a long time, isn't going to come back again in the near future, if at all, because we have a location that has what is necessary for the project. And now the question is, can the developer meet the standards that would be imposed by the Board of Zoning Appeals if the Board of Zoning Appeals gets the opportunity to consider the project? Board of Zoning Appeals looks at an awful lot of things, and this would be a major project for them, but they do their job well. And in this case, it would take some time and probably some review by professionals, not just the board members, to provide opinions as to whether or not the plan meets the BZA performance standards. But we need to get to that point before we can even begin the detail, the minutia that the Board of Zoning Appeals would require. So you're not establishing a data center by this rezoning. You are merely presenting the opportunity to the developer to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and explain how that development could meet the standards imposed by your zoning ordinance. Questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open it up to the public for those in favor. So remember, when you come to the mic, you have 2 minutes to speak, and if you would state your name for the record, please. Good morning.
Morning. Tim Pope, one of the landowners. Steve took a lot of my papers I was going to tell you about, but I had a few questions from the commissioners. One that told me that we need to put this down on US 30. I told him that I did some checking and we couldn't do. The power was not there. It's going to take 2 lines and go through a whole bunch of landowners to try to get it. So it'd be disruptive to the farmers once again. So that was a thing, and I seen Steve pretty well addressed it. Also, I had a question come to me. They said the farmers over around New Carlisle was having trouble getting to their land. I called over and talked to them, and I think that was for you, Sue Ellen, to find out. I says, so I called and asked the farmer I knew. He said, there is no problem over there with any of it. He has not heard of any. And also he said, Tim, they're doing a really good job over there. All the jobs are good paying for the dirt work and everything, and it's all union, so it's high paying jobs for them. They're doing a nice, fine job. So that was another thing that was brought up to me. I think it's something that's good for the community and for the future of the community. We don't always get an opportunity like this in the county to bring this kind of money in for the future. This is something that's going to last 30, 40 years, not 5 to 8. I've heard some people tell me, oh, and one of the commissioners said something about, oh, this is going to be gone in 5 to 8. There's not companies that's going to put up $1 billion to an electric company and plan on leaving in 5 or 8 years. I'm sorry. I wouldn't want to do it. I don't think nobody on the board would want to do that. So they want to do that, and the other money that they are going to invest in this county is a tremendous amount of dollars.
Can you wrap her up here?
Well, I just hope it's for the future growth. I hope everybody decides to vote. It's up to you guys to vote the way you want to. But if we have ideas that need to be talked about later or something, maybe we have to postpone it for a little while to get it. So we do get all these for the future of the thing, because it is a big thing for the county for the rest of our lives.
Thank you.
And mine. Thank you.
Anybody else to speak in favor? Okay, we will open it up to Jack Birch. Remember, you have 30 minutes, and anybody that would you like to speak at the mic as well? But all of it includes in the 30 minutes.
It's okay if I move these mics a little bit, hopefully.
Yeah, make yourself home there.
Okay. All right, I'll try not to. I know you were all there. I'll try not to repeat myself, but I think you need to, and I'm not going to talk a lot about them, but you know what the factors are for a map change. The comprehensive plan, and that's the key. I think you've got to look at the comprehensive plan, current conditions and structures of the use, the most desirable use for the district, and the key is the district, not this property. The district is all the surrounding properties. Conservation of property values in the jurisdiction, again, the entire area, not just this property. And this property is the most valuable, this area is the most valuable, most productive farmland in the county. So you've got issues of, if you rezone this one, how does that impact all the other ag property in the area? It's an area that needs irrigation because it drains so well. That's why it's so productive, but it needs that irrigation. The aquifer is an issue. And again, responsible growth and development. That's why we have a comprehensive plan, is that if we have an issue or question about zoning, we go back to the comprehensive plan. That's why we did it. Otherwise, all we're doing, if we look at the dollars and cents, okay, this is a great opportunity for us to get a lot of tax dollars. All we're doing at that point is saying, we'll just sell to the highest bidder. Where do you want to go? If you bring a lot of tax dollars, you can have that property. We don't, and that's crass, I'm sorry, but that's what that argument is. That's not what we're supposed to do. With respect to the voluntary conditions, all the voluntary condition is saying it's a data center. It doesn't, all the other things are not binding, all right? The only reason this property is so significant is because of the power lines. That's great, but power lines are not static. They can be moved. We can extend those, and there may be cost to that, but the utility company is going to make a lot of money off of that. Utility lines are moved and extended all the time for industry. And it's not a very complicated process to extend utility lines. It happens all the time. Utilities have the right of eminent domain. And we all know, I mean, you all know what eminent domain is. It's not like it's a slow process.
The utility has the right to go make the takes on wherever the property they want is, and then they can go battle on what the values are. But the take happens, the construction happens, and there's not a significant delay. So the convenience of that property is a red herring. With this amount of investment and the huge money that's going to the utility company, I am confident that some sort of an agreement could be reached between Prologis and the utility company. They're all going to make $1. We're not against a data center. We're against a data center in this location. Sounds like a great opportunity, but not in this location. It is not near any other I-3. It is over 500 acres. And in my research, and granted, my research is on the internet, I Googled things that may or may not be completely accurate, but in all of my research, this has been described by their own presentation as a hyper data center. I found no existing data center that comes close to the size of this in the world. I may be wrong, but that's the information I found. I don't think we want to be the experiment. I am concerned, and my clients are concerned, that, and don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist, or think I'm crazy, but potentially there's national security issues. We know that if there is, a bad actor that wants to shut us down, one of the targets is data centers. I mean, that's information is more important, maybe, than even military targets. And maybe you think I'm crazy, but I think that's a reality that we need to think about. That's not the most important issue, but it's something to think about. The most important issue is this doesn't need to be located there. There's places on the corridor that we've already established where I-3 is supposed to be. It's already zoned there. On 30, we can extend the power lines. That's an expense for any business that wants to locate. There's always expenses. And it's not a difficult thing for them to do. Additionally, when you look at Prologis's website and their promotional information, there are all kinds of designs for data centers. They don't have to all be one story. They show multiple stories. They show all kinds of things. There's been no explanation as to why it has to be 535 acres. I mean, there's smaller tracts. I don't know why we couldn't go up in the air. Maybe it takes some variances. Maybe it takes all kinds of things. We're already being asked to compromise some things to do this. Why could we go to a different location and make some compromises if we need to make it more compatible with our community? The fact that there's a NIPSCO substation, number one, is not regulated by zoning. Number two is 20 acres. That's 5%, less than 5% size. It's not even comparable. And substations are all over the county. So I don't even know how to respond to that. It's not comparable. Additionally, again, the research I've done, yeah, data centers are popular, but as many data centers as are built, there are a number of data centers that have been shelved. Microsoft has shelved them. Amazon has shelved them. Everything is in flux. We've got the tariff issue right now, parts availability, new technology. There's no guarantee that this will go forward. If we now commit that this is what's going to happen there, and we say, okay, this is going to be a data center. And don't worry about it because we're going to let the BZA control all these other issues that we need to deal with. All right, now we've rezoned it to say data center. I know if I were representing the petitioner, and I've done a lot of BZA, I'm sure you all realize that, what's the first thing I'm going to say? I'm going to come in and say, hey, this is zoned I-3 for a data center. That's what's supposed to be there. Well, this is the one that's going, this is the one that we have ready to go, and we know we want a data center there. This is how it needs to go in. And if we don't get this one, this land is just going to sit there empty. So maybe we need to compromise a little bit on some of the restrictions. And it happens. Maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't. That's a fear. You don't get to make that decision. You're not on the BZA. With respect to the appeal process, yes, that's a possibility. I've been practicing over 30 years. I've done BZA appeals. It's not, we don't like the BZA decision and it's a trial, we call it tri de novo, another trial in front of a judge. It's not like that. It is an appeal to tell the judge, not only do we not like the decision, but there was not evidence to support the decision. It was an arbitrary and capricious decision that the BZA was so far out of line that their decision can't be supported. And I think Matt will back me up on that there is a presumption that the BZA is right. Okay? So it's not an easy thing to overturn. So that appeal, that's a long way off. That's very difficult to accomplish. I love the fact that Prologis tells us that they're going to take care of the community. That's a great, I hope that would be the case. They're also a publicly traded company. Their obligation is not to our community. Their obligation is their shareholders. If for whatever reason it became economically better to shut down that facility or change it or do whatever for the benefit of the shareholders, what decision, as opposed to something beneficial to the community, what decision do they make? They are bound to make the decision that benefits the shareholders, not our community. If they're both in line, sure, we're going to get that benefit. But if they diverge, there's no obligation to our community. So I would hope that they converge, but no guarantee. No guarantee. I'm sorry, I'm going through my notes relative to what Steve argued. As far as the utility right-of-ways impacting farm ground, in my memory, as I drive along, there's a lot of high tension, high power lines. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that there's a lot of those where, except for the tower area, you farm underneath them. So I don't know that it may impact the farmer at the time they're being constructed, but after that, you don't have a significant impact. I mean, if there's a woods or something, they clear cut that, but you don't farm that anyway. So, and the farmer's going to get paid. So there's an inconvenience, sure. It's not a long-term thing. So I think, again, that's a red herring as well. And as far as the tax revenue, when I just ran down the elements that you need to consider, one thing was missing. There's no element of dollars and cents. There's no element of tax revenue. That's not a zoning decision. That's something else entirely. The zoning decision is this use appropriate for this tract of land and this area of the county? We've already decided where the appropriate use is for this area of the county. It's by the 4-lane highway where the infrastructure is already there. We don't have to improve the roads. We don't have to create some additional infrastructure for truck traffic and those sorts of things. All we have, and we already have sewers there. All we have to do is get some right of way and extend some power lines. A minor inconvenience, as opposed to putting this monstrosity in the middle of the most productive farmland in our county. I don't think the trade-off makes a lot of sense. And I know that there are huge dollars involved, and I know Mr. Polk would really like to make this deal happen, and I appreciate that. But I don't think that it's appropriate for this property. And so I would ask that you vote against that. And I think the most important thing is that your recommendation from the Plan Commission, and they are the experts, 8-0. Just think about that, 8-0. They're telling you it absolutely shouldn't be rezoned. I have a few people that want to speak, and I'll introduce them. And I'm not going to come back up unless there's something I think I really need to follow up on. Beth Lamb, Courtney Van Cleve, Randy Warren, Jared Templin, and Hayden Stuckey. So 5 people. And I think we'll easily meet our 30 minutes, hopefully. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just as long as we stay underneath our 30, otherwise they'll get bumped into the 2-minute each.
I understand. We've talked about that.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Beth Lamb. In all the discussion that we've had about spot zoning, heavy industrial in the middle of farmland, 3 words come to my mind, and those 3 words are plan, projection, and promises. In July of 2024, Microsoft purchased 1,000 acres from Hebron, New Albany, and Heath, Ohio for $153 million. They planned to invest $1 billion in the construction, and they projected that there was going to be 250 employees added. And they also projected a $12 million commitment to the utility and road improvement for Hebron and Heath. In late March, however, Microsoft stopped their plans, and that was due to the tariffs, the economy, and also the strain on the county's energy resources. The mayors of the 3 towns and the commissioner admitted that they had no guarantees, that they need to prepare for both a delay or a cancellation. While Microsoft says they remain committed to the project, they also say that they need to follow whatever the trajectory their technology is leading them. Obviously, this is Microsoft. This has nothing to do with Prologis, but yet the terminology does sound very familiar. Prologis projects that the timeline for construction will be 10 years. Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana said, God made the heavens and the earth, and China made everything else. The conflict in Ukraine is forcing the steel imports from China, and the tariffs on China's steel and aluminum represent a significant issue for any projected timeline. That includes supply chain disruptions, limited availability and/or shortages of critical hardware, aluminum, steel, and power equipment and cooling systems. We simply cannot rely on the projection of this timeline. According to Prologis, the plan is to use a closed-loop system. However, the technical review committee heard 19,000 gallons a day, then it moved on to 40 to 50,000 gallons a day. From my research and what I've gained, I think that is very much an understated amount of gallons that they might use. In addition to that, there is no guarantee that this will be a closed loop system. It certainly depends on whoever it is that the data center might need. So then again, the plans might pivot when the build out actually begins. The first lease will also determine any of the additional variances to the ordinances that were already mentioned at the technical review committee. SMRs are also a part of the future of data centers, and those also require water, wastewater, or water treatment and wastewater management. According to Prologis, they project that there will also be 300 employees. Obviously, if the same thing happens that happened in Ohio, we cannot actually depend on that. And if you are someone called NVIDIA, you will not have employees, you will have robots that they will use to manage the movement and the positioning of the servers. We also have projections. This will use 739 megawatts of power each day. However, once again, research would show to me that it would be closer to 1,000 megawatts a day, and that is twice the amount of power that is used by Indianapolis. Just a thought. And also, Goldman Sachs report suggests that power demands from data centers will also most likely increase by 109% by the year 2030. The plans are also to complete a data center. Other hyperscale data centers set on land that is 225 acres. So this is obviously double that. And this is obviously also a real estate transaction. at the end of the build or at any time following, the data center may no longer be interesting in using that land for a data center. The complex built for data center could become obsolete. If that happens, voluntary ordinance would be canceled and the 554 acres could be flipped into any heavy industrial that Prologis might find to secure. The lifespan of the data center is projected to be 10 to 20 years, or is that really true? In April 8th, there's an article in the Smart News, and China's AI infrastructure boom is faltering. Currently, 80% of that country's data center capacity is unused. The only word that I really haven't touched on today is the word promise. Farmland isn't just a promise, it's a fact. It's reliable, it's resilient, and it is sustainable. It doesn't have a life expectancy unless it is taken away by heavy industrial. On one hand, this is a very difficult decision to make because of the ever-changing, continuing factors that surround it. On the other hand, this is a very simple decision. We do have a plan. You circle back to the plan. In one way, it's kind of like the Bible. No matter what comes down the line, that's the guide that we use. And obviously, the comprehensive plan is not a legal document, but still, it does provide a promise, and that promise is to preserve and to protect farmland. So I'd ask you to make that decision today and solely think about the rezoning request to put heavy industrial in the middle of farmland. And the problem is we just cannot rely on projections and plans because they change. Don't put a 6-month moratorium on this issue. Vote no today. And I hope you say what you mean and mean what you say, because this vote will reveal character and integrity. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Courtney Van Cleve, and I live a few miles from the proposed rezoning with my husband and 4 small children, and I appreciate your time and letting us speak. When making major decisions that will shape our community for generations, I believe we must make time to do thorough research. We need to understand who we're partnering with and what's being built and how it will affect our land, infrastructure, and our quality of life. That's why it's been so eye-opening for me to learn more about the publicly traded company Prologis, the largest industrial real estate company in the world. In 2023, their CEO was the highest paid in the US real estate investment trust sector, with compensation totaling over $50 million. Prologis caters to massive e-commerce and logistics operations, Amazon, FedEx, Home Depot. They've partnered with Skybox data centers to build major campuses in the fastest growing business districts in our country, like the 50-acre Legacy campus in Dallas and the 160-acre Power campus in Austin. According to their own website, Prologis builds to suit with a focus on sustainable design. Their buildings feature low-emission HVAC systems, solar rooftops, skylights, LED lighting, EV charging stations, and more. Those are excellent features, but for larger cities like Dallas, Chicago, LA, New York, and Atlanta. So why 554 acres of open farmland in Leesburg? Yes, farmland may be cheaper and easier to build on, but it lacks the infrastructure to support something of this size. And it won't be inconspicuous, as they stated at the last meeting. This isn't a building that blends into landscape because there is nothing else in the surrounding fields and homes. It will stand out, and it raises real concerns about security, both foreign and domestic, and also long-term land use. I'm not against data centers. I think we've made that kind of clear, but we just as the APC unanimously recommended, this is not the best place for it. It's just the cheapest and the easiest. As commissioners, you are stewards of this land. The decisions you make will shape not just our county's development, but its identity. And I urge you, on behalf of families like mine, to vote no on this rezoning request. And I respectfully ask, as one of your constituents, to consider placing at least a 1-year moratorium on any data center built in our county. Use that time to explore more appropriate sites closer to existing industrial zones. Time to thoughtfully plan and ensure both our citizens and our natural resources are protected. Once farmland is gone, it's gone. Let's get this right for the future of our farmland, our neighborhoods, and our community. Thank you.
Gordon.
Good morning. My name is Randy Warren. I was the agriculture teacher at Wawasee High School from 1975 to 2013. I'm here today to promote the agricultural and agribusiness industry within Kosciuszko County, and in particular to advocate for the preservation and protection of prime farmland. Each county in the United States has what's called a soil and water conservation district, just as we have here in Kosciuszko County. One of their major jobs is to do a detailed soil survey classifying soils to determine best land use practices. The process in Kosciuszko County took nearly a decade to collect and analyze thousands of soil samples. The soil survey recognizes 8 land classes. Classes 1 through 4 are considered as cropland. Class 5, floodplains. Class 6 through 8 are designated permanent pasture or woodland. Fortunately, much of the soil in Kosciuszko County is in classes 1 and 2, which are best used for farming and is often referred to as prime farmland. Prime farmland is important cropland identified by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And I'm quoting from the USDA's Kosciuszko County Soil Survey. They said it is of major importance in meeting the nation's short and long-range needs for food and fiber. Because the supply of high-quality farmland is limited, the U.S. Department of Agriculture recognizes that responsible levels of government, as well as individuals, should encourage and facilitate the wise use of our nation's prime farmland. This land is defined as land that is best suited for the production of food, feed, and forage. Prime farmland possesses qualities needed for a soil to produce sustained high yields of crops in an economic manner. Prime farmland produces highest yields with minimal profits or minimal inputs of energy and economic resources. It also results in the least damage to the environment. Unfortunately, recent trends in land use in parts of the county has been the loss of prime farmland to industrial and urban use. The loss of this land to other uses puts pressure on marginal lands, which are generally more erodible, droughty, and less productive. I would like to quote also from 2 other documents. One, the county commissioners have played a role in drafting. In 2022, the preservation of our productive agricultural land was among the primary objections included in the final recommendations of the Ford Kosciuszko initiative. The plot of land we are discussing represents exactly what was envisioned for preservation. Prior to that report, the Kosciuszko County Economic Development Corporation Task Force identified the top 3 thriving industries within the county. And Mr. Snyder alluded to these. These are agricultural, medical devices, and recreation. Their report concluded that we must do everything we can not to diminish these 3 well-established industries that have played such a key role in the economic stability of our county. This certainly meant a commitment to maintain the backbone of our rural economy. In conclusion, we cannot be complacent in thinking all development is good without also considering the best use of the land. Long-term food security has to be a priority. American agriculture faces significant challenges. Let Kosciuszko County be bold enough to become a leader in the preservation and protection of this irreplaceable natural resource. I urge this governing body to make 2025 the year we will work together to leave a legacy of preserving and protecting productive, profitable farmland. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Hayden Stuckey. I'm proudly representing the 8th generation of my family farming in the land that's just east of this rezoning. And I'm also proudly a member of the Tippecanoe Valley FFA. I want to begin by clarifying that we're not completely opposed to a rezoning in Kosciuszko County. It's just the land that is currently being proposed is not at all necessary. As he just said, it is prime farmland. A study done by Michigan State University says that Kosciuszko County on a 18-point scale has a fertility index of around 12. And states like Virginia or Texas are a lot lower, and it's around 6 or 7. So if we look at that, Indiana, especially Kosciuszko County, is a lot more fertile, a lot more valuable farmland than other states that may be leading in data center production. So there is that. This land, it's not just the soil of Kosciuszko County. It's our legacy, it's our livelihood, and it's a critical resource for our food production. Agriculture has been the backbone of our county and state for many years. Indiana ranks among the top agricultural states in the nation, leading in corn, soybeans, pork, and poultry, and we can't risk that. The farmland in question, it contributes to all of these things, and if we rezone this, then we're just taking it away. Rezoning this land also sets a dangerous precedent for the land around it. If we're taking away this prime farmland, then it's just going to keep going. It's a domino effect. So we have to stop right when we're ahead of it. Once fertile farmland is converted, then it can't go back again. Once it's turned into a data center, then that land is no longer useful for farm purposes. This shift threatens the sustainability of our food systems and the economic stability of its rural communities. We believe there are alternatives within the county more suitable for such developments, areas already designed for industrial usage that wouldn't compromise our agricultural assets. By directing growth to these locations, we can achieve a balance that supports technological advancement without sacrificing our farming heritage. As stewards of this land, we urge you to consider the long-term implications of this rezoning. Let's work together to find solutions that honor our agricultural roots while embracing future opportunities. Protecting our farmland ensures that generations to come can continue the proud tradition of farming that defines Kosciuszko County. Please do not take away this valuable farmland. Please vote no on this. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
You're welcome. Thank you. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Jared Templin, local resident. Yeah, keep going or?
Yeah, you can go. You're just gonna have 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. I just want to let you guys know that you guys are not alone on the surrounding data center proposals. This is how Valparaiso Mayor John Costas announces their decision. Today, I'm announcing that the city will cease all efforts towards exploring a data center on the city's east side. Our city council is in unanimous support of this action. Our citizens have spoken decisively that they believe that this is a project that is not in the best interest of the city. I will, of course, honor that decision. I have spoken with the potential developer in the Agri Court that they agreed to withdraw the pursuing of the project and also release the option on the land. While the city administration would not have farther pursued this project without community and city council support, it is clear now that the option of the data center is not something our residents favor. I regret the angst and frustration it has caused on many citizens. I take full responsibility of how this potential project was communicated and will strive to improve the future opportunities coming. Valparaiso is an amazing community, and as your mayor, I look forward to working together to enhance the city in ways that make us all proud to call it home. Personally, I appreciate this mayor and the city council for putting all the citizens above the promises of financial gains, and I urge you guys to do also. God bless.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else speaking against? Don't forget to state your name, please.
Good morning. My name is Joe Shepard. And first of all, I'd like to thank commissioners for the opportunity to speak. And I also thank you folks for serving on the commission board. It cannot be easy at times to vote one way or the other, but on important issues. You have been elected by the people and for the people to represent us in Kosciuszko County, to make good decisions and for the good of our county. However, there are times I believe that we, the people of the county, can help take out the enormous stress and anxiety that comes about when voting one way or the other. I think that's probably true of stress and anxiety, I would think. For example, when thousands of your constituents rise up and protest against a certain issue, it seems that this would make your voting against that issue a little easier. I want to make it perfectly clear that we are not protesting against you commissioners at all. We're just protesting against a data center being built where proposed. There are many negative reasons that we've already been stated by the public. When pertaining to federal government and local government, Ronald Reagan said it best, and I quote, "We the people are the driver, the government is the car, and we the people decide where it should go and by what route and how fast." In conclusion, again, thousands of people in this county have said no to this facility, and even our own area planning board has said no. I hope this helps you commissioners to follow the same path and vote no to this data center. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joe.
Morning.
Morning. My name is Luke Wilkinson. I am a senior at Wawasee High School. I've been a resident of Kosciuszko County for 18 years, and I've been a resident of Milford, Indiana for 10 years. I live 5 miles north of the proposed data center site. I'm here to represent the members of the Wawasee FFA chapter that are planning to pursue one of the many careers in agriculture, and I'm speaking today to voice the concerns about how this decision will affect my generation. This entire venture reminds me of David versus Goliath. How could anyone with a small voice go up against a corporate giant that has lots of power and nearly unlimited resources? It might be easy just to ignore the family farms in the Clunet area. However, these are hardworking individuals who started with a dream of owning their own farm, thinking this was an investment that they would enjoy the rest of their lives, raising a lifestyle most people have never experienced and passing those traditions on to their children, which was important to them. Now, all of a sudden, their dreams and livelihood will be disrupted and turned upside down. Our belief that by working hard allows you to achieve anything is now changed forever. What is this signaling to my generation? Well, we have the opportunity to achieve our goals of working in such a unique industry that feeds the world. We are losing some of the best farmland in the United States to green energy projects, data centers, and even more alarmingly, foreign countries each and every month, each taking large swaths of land and in some cases posing a possible threat to our national security. We cannot continue such practices if we plan to be the world leader in food production. Warsaw is considered to be the orthopedic capital of the world. 3 of the top 4 employers in the county are in the orthopedic industry. What would happen to our economy if Zimmer or Biomet were to suddenly transfer to another state? Equally as dramatic, if we continue to lose farmland, this will hurt our farmers, creating a snowball effect, as it will hurt our local agribusinesses like fertilizer plants and retailers, equipment dealerships, and grain elevators. I urge you to follow the zoning board recommendation and not allow a data center in rural Leesburg and Clunet, and possibly change the trajectory of my generation's future in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Robbie Kelly, and I live just a few miles from the proposed rezoning from the data center. As you can see, the potential of a data center has a lot of us nervous about what's going to happen. I just want to make a few points that we've made a lot of harmful impacts that could potentially happen because of this. Reviewing the duties of the commissioner and the powers that you all have boils down to 3 points to me. Provide safe conditions for our community and its people, provide government functions and buildings to effectively operate, and develop regulations for the safety of everyone in the county. Nowhere in those duties does it say have a negative impact. That's what potential we're facing with the proposed rezone from agriculture to I-3. Clearly, our own area planning commission has voted 8-0 to deny this change. As you can see, the negative impacts it has on surroundings that we've brought up, which don't follow our comprehensive plan. 2 of those points: preserve our lakes, waterways, and natural resources. The other one, preserve our productive agricultural land. By allowing a rezone, we don't follow our comprehensive plan, which is supposed to be our guide and our future for this county. We have elected you to make these decisions and to make the right decision for the future of our county. That decision would be to follow the comprehensive plan and deny the zoning request. Don't give into the glitter of a California-based real estate trust and stand with the community behind you here and stand up for what is right for Kosciuszko County. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Emmett Schmucker, Realtor, auctioneer, local region, Goshen, actually. And I guess there's something that I would like to bring to the attention. I've been here at both meetings. I've listened carefully as to what is being proposed and what's putting in, and done some research. And I've come to the conclusion that the data center is not a bad thing, but there's a quality of life issue that people are looking at. And in 1867 is when Kosciuszko County was founded, put together. And in this building, I'm sure that there's documents to that effect. And every decision that has been made since then is in this building as well. So you folks have an opportunity to make a decision, good or bad. Couple things that I look at is quality of life for the people in benefit of, and the people that are being sidelined because of it. Now, I have sit across the table after these decisions have been made, trying to come to a reasonable conclusion as to what's the best use after the decisions have been made. And that really, really is very difficult in regards to value and what the possibility is from there. With that, I would come to another possibility. And what I'm talking about is what happens after? What comes next? How do we repurpose what we're doing here? If something should happen, how do you repurpose and what do you do with that 500 acres of land after the fact? It is enormously difficult to repurpose some of these old buildings. Believe me, I've done it, and it's hard. And the value and all of the other things that come into place in regards to it. So give those two a couple things of consideration. I know a lot of people have talked about quality of life, repurposing the buildings if something should happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, Steve, we'll let you re-engage or rebut.
Thank you. JC wants to make a couple comments and then I'll finish up.
Thank you. Thank you for the comments again. We took all those down in our notes, and I wanted to address a couple of them here quickly before Steve provided a closing statement. So one, the comprehensive plan that's been brought up multiple times. I think we all have already discussed that data center was not contemplated in the comprehensive plan. So as much as I agree with that statement, I think if it was contemplated when that was designed, that would have more relevancy. I've heard multiple times that we're okay with data centers, but it just can't be in this location. And I will just tell you from the individual who's trying to build a data center, it's not going to be another location. This location wasn't chosen because the land was cheap, or we're trying to take advantage of the county, or you know, it's easy to push around an agricultural community to kind of put something that we want there. That's not at all why we chose this land. This land was chosen because it was the least disruptive way to access a unique resource this county has, which is massive amounts of power in that location, with those lines converging in that location. You can't just take a data center and put it in another location and run high voltage lines to it. And the opposition's position of why don't you just eminent domain land around the community, I don't quite understand, coming from a farming community that hates high voltage lines and poles being run through their community, and having to plant around those poles and having to deal with eminent domain through their parcels. Lastly, we mentioned a couple times 535 acres. Why is it so big? Why, you know, this is the largest data center, as I heard, largest data center in the globe. That's not true. We're building a data center campus that's actually larger than this in Texas right now, and I know some of our competitors are building campuses that are even larger. 535 acres, you know, the reason that it's 535 acres is mainly because Mr. Polk has driven a hard bargain, and we're taking all of the land. we don't need all the land. As you've seen in the site plan we provided, there's lots of excess land. And as we get through some of the approval processes, that land will probably be used for setback requirements or maybe some provisioning for agricultural use on those sites.
I heard a lot of comments, and they were the same comments I heard before the Plan Commission, but there's one thing that everyone misses, and that is the state legislature has provided you with guidance as to what factors you need to consider when you're considering a rezoning. First one is there adequate air, light, access, and safety? That's cited as Indiana Code 3674601. The next one, avoiding congestion in public ways. The third one, promoting public health, safety, convenience, and general welfare. And the last one, accomplish purposes of the zoning ordinance. That's what the state says has to be considered when you're rezoning. Now, we've heard a lot about comprehensive plans, and they are a guideline. There's no question about that. Ours did not anticipate a data center. I don't know that there are any comprehensive plans around except possibly in the larger cities that ever have contemplated that. But we're confronted with that right now. The idea being we have to make a decision as to whether we're going to be amenable to progress in this form. And comprehensive plans say preserve agriculture. If that's the case, this county has no place to expand. There isn't a community in this county that can expand without taking agricultural land, because that's the empty space that's available if we need additional housing. Finding a new location and running a power line to it, I've heard several times. Roughly 30 years ago, I was city attorney in Warsaw when the project to lower the power lines at the east end of the runway was first discussed. And you see it 30 years later taking place. And that wasn't running new power lines, that was simply lowering them. And it was a 30-year process. Running new high transmission lines to a new location is simply not a practical answer when the asset already exists in the county. JC addressed the fact that this would be the largest complex in the world. That's simply not the case. But there was an attempt, in my opinion, to cast a negative light on Prologis because they have shareholders. This country has been supported by shareholders its entire existence. Those are the people who find a project worthy of investment and spend their money making an investment. And without them, Zimmer wouldn't be here. Without them, Prologis wouldn't exist. But those shareholders felt that there was enough of an opportunity for them to invest and obtain a return on their capital investment that they did. And pleasing shareholders is not the nasty thing to do that everybody seems to think. You have to please your shareholders if you're going to continue to be able to operate. And I don't care whether it's Prologis or whether it's Zimmer Biomet or whether it's General Motors. You need those investors to survive. And you do things to make those investors happy with their investment. Farmers need AI. Tim Polk's letter to the editor in the Times Union last night was very to the point. Every time he takes an implement out into the field, he's using AI. He's using that computer to tell him where to plant, what to plant. whether he's keeping his rows straight. All of that is now computerized. And every farmer using that type of equipment is using a data center where that information is stored. It's not stored in your cell phone. It's stored at a data center. There is a consideration that the state has said you must make concerning the general welfare of the public. The general welfare of the public also requires the county to maintain a significant tax base to support the needs of the county residents. This is one of those opportunities that maybe the state legislature wants to take away in another pocket, but this is an opportunity to sustain the general welfare of the community. But finally, this is not approval of a data center. This is a rezoning to I3 to allow the process of obtaining approval for a data center to be presented to the Board of Zoning Appeals and work through the minutia that is required under your own zoning ordinance. That's why your zoning ordinance was set up, to allow those particular uses which are unique to be considered by the Board of Zoning Appeals and all of the details ironed out before that approval is ever to the point where construction can begin. What we're asking for is simply that opportunity.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, we're going to close the meeting to the public here for comments or motion from the fellow commissioners.
We'll take the vote and then do comments. I'd make the motion that we accept the unanimous recommendation of area plan to not rezone this ground on 3 reasons. One of them, the Valparaiso mayor said it very succinctly. Our citizens have spoken. Our area plan department has spoken. And now your county commissioners are speaking. Thank you.
And I would second that motion. First, I want to say thank you to all who have participated in this process for your civility and respect. To be clear, I support development and growth when done properly. I support data centers in logical locations. Keeping an open mind, I have heard from both sides the issues and have tried to respond to everyone who sent me an email, a text, or a call. And by reaching out, I was able to communicate with you and hear your perspectives. So I feel like I have heard your thoughts and your attitudes and what concerns you the most. I met in person with Prologis to get answers to my questions and to look at the financial benefits of the development. Understanding the assessment process is critical to understanding the tax calculations and their accuracy. I'm just glad that I have the knowledge of historic facts on how this process should work, which has helped me sort out the facts to be considered. I have watched many online webinars studying the facts of the pros and cons of developing a data center. I have watched in the last few weeks many Indiana counties work to approve or deny data centers, with many more tagged for future locations. This has not been a small task and has pretty well consumed my days since we first started this process. I understand the importance and the meaning of a comprehensive plan, and the Area Plan Commission followed that to make the decision to deny the zoning. I believe the area plan did their due diligence on those issues and provided the right decision. I believe I have done my due diligence and I have arrived at the same decision. The rezoning of property should be denied because it is not a reasonable and prudent location for this type of development. Thank you.
Yeah, as county commissioners, we must prioritize our residents' needs and gather the information we need to make an informed decision that will propel our county forward. I firmly believe that both sides can appreciate and agree upon that principle. This zoning request process was time-consuming, involving multiple in-person meetings, phone conversations from both parties. Additionally, I took the time and visited 5 data centers located in Indiana and Illinois to observe construction, the operations and aspects of these projects completed. Furthermore, I met with commissioners in St. Joe and Allen County where multiple data centers are currently being built. Additionally, I conducted my own research to verify information presented by both sides, avoiding solely on internet sources or misinformation that's been spread on social media. I reviewed the revenue projections provided, made some edits to ensure conservative estimates. Furthermore, I read numerous emails, texts, listened to voicemails from concerned residents from both sides. As a forward-thinking commissioner, I believe that continued growth is the key to maintaining our low tax rate and ensuring the sustainability of the services as commissioners we are to provide. If we fail to grow, we risk becoming irrelevant in the face of growing communities. As a county commissioner, we must be open to embrace change, as it is the only constant in life. To maintain and enhance the quality of life that our next generation requires, we must be consistently improving and embracing change. Kosciuszko County is beautiful, a vibrant community with much to be grateful for, including over 100 natural lakes, our rich history in orthopedics, a strong agricultural heritage. As a commissioner, we have to seek to encourage a business-friendly mindset that will help us wisely steward these natural resources and this heritage. In this stewardship, we are pro-business, pro-growth, pro-data center. However, this unique, challenging project and the limitations and problems associated with the current proposed location have not been overcome by the petitioner. In light of these considerations, I concur with my fellow commissioners recommending to accept the ACP's unanimous recommendation to deny the rezoning petition. With that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The request has been denied.
Thank you, Matt.
Is there any further business to come before the commissioners? Hearing none, we'll see you back here on May 6th. Thank you.
Oh.